the Radio War and Peace YouTube show. It's been a tough year due to COVID restrictions and missing out on the War and Peace revival. So to give you a flavour of the War and Peace, we are producing a monthly video featuring all the people and amazing activities that make the War and Peace revival so much fun. On this first episode, we'll be chatting to Penny Legg, who runs the Authors Pavilion, and we'll be catching up with the team behind the 360 History, a popular reenactment group. So reenactment plays a huge part at the War and Peace revival. So Pete spoke to Mike from the 360 History team.
It was, started off as a small project that I founded back in, a while back. So 2010 was our first ever show, which we started at War and Peace. And we were a small little US Marine Corps display that was hidden in amongst two fields, which not many people came past. And the next year we came back and started our Black Hawk Down display. Started off nice and small and kind of built up from there. And now what should have been the last War and Peace show would have been our 10th anniversary show of doing Black Hawk Down, and we've come on leaps and bounds and kind of progressed every year, adding more and more and more to having a real helicopter and a crashed helicopter and the big display that people love to see now.
Yeah, it's one of the more eye-catching displays by the reenactment groups, isn't it? Because I mean, as you come in the main gate, you're just there on the left, right opposite where our studios were. Yeah,
so we've built up a good rapport with the owners of the show, and they've always been really helpful. They really helped set us up with a great place to pitch our display, so it's right in the focus of everyone. I think we stand out quite a bit. We were quite different to most other people. It's very much, we aim for the film set realism, so it's all completely different. It's not just a green field, it's a big desert area with buildings and lots of live action going on displays each day. So we really put in the work to get it set up.
It is very impressive because, I mean, purely for the action, the noise, I mean, it is one of the loudest things. I mean, the main arena is fairly loud, but because we're in so close proximity to where you are, the noise is incredible, and that really attracts the people in. They want to see, that's what they enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, we do a live demonstration every day at the show, generally around about 1:30 timings during the day, where we start off, myself will give a little bit of talk and a brief history on what we portray, and then we lead into a live firing demonstration. It's really I think the closest the public really get to that sort of live firing demonstration, so they really feel the noise. We go through a lot of ammunition in a short space of time, and kind of add in a bit of acting and live action in there as well.
And a few flashbangs here and there, and it's
do.
It's central to this is the MD-500 helicopter that you've got. Now, you sat around a campfire at a previous War and Peace just chatting about it and thought, let's get one of these on display. And look, a few weeks later on eBay, you're buying one.
Yeah, so it was kind of one of those things where it's a distant dream. So as I said, we started off, the first Black Hawk Down display was 2011. We started off really small with this half-fast built sort of wooden shack that we called a building, and then kind of progressed from there. And then one day we were all sat around thinking, what could make this better? And I think it was me that made the suggestion, like, we need to get a helicopter, and they just don't come up there. It's impossible to find them. And then lo and behold, one day I was searching for eBay and one came up in America. So put in the effort to get it over here, which was the biggest issue. The logistics for it was a nightmare. It was just as all those storms were kicking off in America, so we had to sign a waiver that if the shipping transport got into any trouble, they'd have to dump the helicopter off the side of the container, and then we'd lose out. So we took some risk getting it here, but it came, and we put in a good year of solid work to restore it, and it's all finished.
I mean, it is highly impressive. And it came over on a container on a big cargo vessel.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Future displays. Have you any plans for anything new to come in? Have you bought anything else? I mean, a tank.
Yeah, so we're always trying to improve what we do. It's getting quite hard to add more at the moment, and with all the lockdown restrictions, it's been quite hard to meet up and do things. But we're always trying to add extra things, and we're really focusing on our live action displays and increasing the amount of them we do and adding more to them as well. So there should be some new exciting things for when we get to start back up.
In War and Peace, the authors are a huge part of our shows. So Pete spoke to Penny Legg, who is an author herself and also runs the Authors Pavilion, and asked her how she first got involved with the War and Peace revival.
Well, the Authors Pavilion, there had been an author presence, shall we say, for some years, way before my time. I think I started going to War and Peace in about 2011, 2012, something like that. And when I first went along, authors were referred to as book signers, and they basically had a space where they could be found, a little stand, and they talked to the public when they drifted by, if they drifted by, and signed books for people that wanted to buy them. So that's what I came into. And for several years, up to 2015, that's how the Authors Pavilion ran. It was moved, the authors were moved, I can't remember, was it about 2014, I think, into a small marquee that was next door to the Victory Marquee, literally next door. And it was a free-for-all. The authors just, you know, here's tables. If we were lucky, there were enough tables for the authors that had been invited, and people sat there, you know, hoped that people would come in. We couldn't hear ourselves think because of the noise from the, you know, the music and dancing and laughter and whatnot from the Victory Marquee, which was lovely for them, but made life very difficult. And in 2015, there were some problems with some of the authors, and Bill Fowler was in charge of the authors at that time, and he said to me, "What can we do? Can we, you know, make this better than it is now?" You know, and so for a couple of days on that particular event, we ran some talks in the morning on the Victory. In the Victory Marquee, because there was nothing going on in the morning. Everything started at lunchtime and carried on. And one of the other authors, I do remember, had suggested having talks, and had a venue set up way away from the Authors Pavilion, which was in a cafe type scenario with people just chatting all the way through. It wasn't right. So anyway, we tried it out with just 5-minute talks off the cuff in 2015 in Chris White's Victory Marquee, and that worked really well. We with no advertising, literally off the cuff. I went around the authors, said, "Are any of you up for this?" And they said, "Yeah, okay." And it was just, this is who I am, this is my book, a little bit about my book. But we were getting audiences of, you know, 50, 60 people were drifting in. And so at the end of that, Bill Fowler came to me and he said, "Right, okay, what do you think we should be doing here?" And so I sat and thought about it. I wrote a paper on what the authors could be doing, how it could be working and whatnot, presented it to Bill. And this was at the time when the changeover to John was happening. He'd just bought the show, and Bill spoke to John, and one thing leads to another, and now we have the Authors Pavilion as we know it now, which is a separate entity in terms of the a big marquee. We have a big section of it, and we are growing. That we're slowly taking over this huge, the gentleman's marquee. And
yeah, and you've got all the authors either side, aren't they, on tables? Plenty of space for the authors and all their books, and a PA system.
Yes. We when I put everything together, I thought, what do we need? And yes, we need a full suite of tech, basically. So we have all the proper tech now that you need. So you know, authors can, you know, they have microphones, they have you know, both handheld and head mics. We have screens for showing you know, video and PowerPoint presentations, whatever people want to put up. Cine film we've had going on there, kinds of things, you know. And you know, we've got sound systems and you know, that everything is there for authors to be able to give professional presentations. And so invitations are sent to authors, and if they would like to come along, they're very welcome to. Some come just for the day, some come for 2 or 3 days, some come for the whole show, which is great. And yeah, they get immersed into, you know, this wonderful thing that is the War and Peace Revival.
Yeah, it is quite immersive, isn't it? It's
wonderful, isn't it? You know, first timers come. They've not perhaps, you know, they've got a new book out perhaps, and they've they're not sure what they're getting themselves into, you know. Sort of, there's bangs and crashes and tanks going past and whatnot. It's great fun. Or you know, reenactors marching through the author's pavilion, you know, with their guns, and you know, halt, who goes there, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, all kinds of things happen in the author's pavilion. Most of them are choreographed, but not always. And what we do now with the Authors Pavilion, 2020 would have been our 5th anniversary, and I had planned a party, Pete. You know, it's such a shame that COVID came, and of course this year we can't do it again this year. So you know, next year when we come back, we'll do some welcome back events, I'm sure. You know, but you know, it's everybody has a set place now, everything is organized, and you know, there's no free-for-all trying to find tables for authors and whatnot. And it's a very pleasant place to come, particularly in the Gentleman's Marquee, where you know, you have nice places to sit, you know, sofas and whatnot, you know, and there's a bar normally at the end, so you can get a drink and you can drift over. What we find is some people will come and sit in the audience, and there are audience seats. Some people will stand outside because the speakers are such that you can sit on the picnic benches and whatnot, enjoy the sunshine, which is great if you've got children. You know, they can run about and make a racket, and the parents can listen to what's going on in the Authors Pavilion. Or you can sit at the bar and listen as well, you know. So it's a nice situation. And it's attracted growing audiences. We had in 2019, it was fabulous. We started very small. 2016, we had trickles of people coming in. They hadn't a clue what was going on. They didn't really understand the concept. The word was slow getting out, although it was in the program, and we'd got, you know, sort of 4-page spreads, color and whatnot. It was slow getting out, you know. You know, it's like most things with change, isn't it? You know, when something new comes in, it's slow to take off. But by 2019, so that's 4 years, I think we had something about 5,000 or 6,000 people coming to the Authors Pavilion, just specifically to listen and meet, you know, listen to the talks, meet the authors, buy you know, signed copies of books and whatnot, you know. And that was lovely.
Those talks are absolutely fascinating, because you can read a book, but it's good to hear the person that's written the book, and that they can tell. I mean, I'm lucky because I interview all the authors for the radio, and that's just one of the best things, because I can sit and talk to them for hours, some of them, and they're quite emotional, some of those chats as well, because they're things that relate to. So, and everyone's got something they can relate to with these authors, haven't they, because of the subject matters they cover. Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I try and choose the subjects. You know, it depends what's going on at War and Peace. You know, sometimes there's anniversaries that are being commemorated, remembered. Sometimes there's, you know, particular things happening, and I get told that. You know, I'm the author coordinator of the whole thing. So, you know, I try and find authors, you know, with works that will complement what's going on in the show itself. So, you know, the RAF 100, for example, we had Scott Addington coming with his books. We had Kevin Porter from the Royal Navy. He was he'd written a book about the Falklands for the 35th anniversary. You know, so we try and get you know, subject matter that will resonate with the War and Peace you know, audience. And I'm not surprised, Pete, that you know, you find them so interesting to talk to, because bless you, you know, when I spoke to War and Peace and said, you know, would you please author, you know, interview our authors, you know, yourself, your predecessors, you know, people that have been at War and Peace, you've always been wonderful about interviewing and making it a really good experience for the authors. And it's lovely to hear you say that they're really interesting people to talk to, because they've enjoyed being interviewed, and that comes back to me. And so it's a two-way thing. So anybody listening to those interviews will get a really good experience, you know, listening.
Yeah, and I'm possibly asking questions from someone who knows very little about the subject. So, and I learned that an old school friend of mine is now an author, Neil Barber.
Oh, bless him, Neil. Yes.
Neil and I played football.
I didn't know you. I
Yeah,
didn't know you were schoolmates,
Not
really.
schoolmates, we were teenage, so we played football together as kids. So I remember my first year, I think was 2017, and I had this list, and I saw the name Neil Barber, and I went, I knew a fella called Neil Barber. I used to play football with him every week. He's an old friend. I hadn't seen him in about 30 years, and I thought it's not him, but I do know a Neil Barber. And then when you were bringing him towards me, I was thinking, that doesn't half look like the Neil Barber with the less hair than the one I remember, but I think that's him. And we sat down and chatted, and he'd seen my name and thought, no, it can't be, because neither of us.
How funny.
He had, as far as I was aware, he had no interest in his subject matter. I think he knew I was into my music and my radio, but I don't think he realised that I took it a little bit further than some. So it was, catching up with her. So I know exactly what songs to play him when he comes on. He's happy as a Larry. He is.
Oh, that's wonderful. I didn't know that. That's really good.
Yeah, it's we used to play football. Neither of us are that good, but never mind. So yeah, the author selection, that's because, and you mentioned the Falklands. I do remember interviewing. That was one of my first interviews, I think.
Yes, I think it was. Yes.
And you get different things, and you got different sort of authors. It's not because you get Elaine Everest. I remember the Walworth Girls, and
absolutely. I mean, she's an international bestseller.
You sit down
and best-selling author, and she comes to War and Peace. It's wonderful. No, how do we do this? There's a whole range of things.
Yeah.
I've mentioned anniversaries. If I know that there's something particularly happening in the year, we have a thing called, I have it here, the Bookseller, which is they have a buyer's guide, and it comes out twice a year. And in here, everything that is being published is listed, and I look through those every year to see what's being published, the kinds of books, the subjects and whatnot. And I shortlist anything that I think War and Peace audiences might like. And then I contact the publishers, and we have a conversation, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. I have a very good relationship with publishers. I go to the London Book Fair each year. I go and see the publishers. We sit down and have a chat, see what they've got coming up, or what they've just had published. Things that, it's not always just new books. Sometimes we have older books as well that it depends what the topic is. And resulting from those conversations, some of the authors come along to the show. Sometimes it's feedback from the audience. You mentioned Neil Barber. Now, he's been coming to War and Peace longer than I have, for years and years and years. He is tremendously popular. Have I got any? Yes, I have. I mean, he talks about, one of the things he talks about, Pegasus Bridge. He has a vast knowledge of this particular area, and he brought out a pocket guide a little while ago, which on Pegasus Bridge, and I know that sold like hotcakes. He's a very knowledgeable speaker, very well known. I mean, people know that he's consulted for TV shows and films and things, and so he comes regularly. I ask him each year. Others, what else would I say? Sometimes direct contact from authors. We get either at the office, we get a letter or an email come in, or a phone call, or directly to myself. I get authors who've heard about War and Peace, think that they might fit, and inquire. And so, I have a chat with them. And the result is that we cover all kinds of subjects. The show is War and Peace.
Yeah.
So it's not all bangs, battles, and whatnot. It's a bit of everything for everyone. We've had children's authors come in through to the SAS. So
Rusty Firmin, what a character.
Rusty, oh bless him. Yes, he's a lovely man. He's come is it 2 years, I think, something like that. Yeah. He has a wonderful talk with lots of music, very, very loud music, which draws a crowd. I have no idea. Da 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 da. You know, very.
Yeah.
And yeah, he talks about the Iranian embassy siege back in 1980,
Which he was part of the team.
Which he was part of, yes. So there's lots of ways of finding authors. I'm very, very busy. I normally start looking for authors around about February each year.
Yeah.
The London Book Fair under normal circumstances is in March, and I normally know by then what I'm looking for.
I look forward to the email that tells me who I'm going to be interviewing. That is interesting. And I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. I'm looking forward to that one. And yeah. I'll make sure Rupert Wheelock is on there, because Rupert is brilliant.
Rupert, Rupert Wheelock. He's come a couple of years now, and it's a shame, actually. This year we were really hoping that he'd be able, we'd have the show again, because he's got a new book just coming out again. So he's been very popular. You know, ex-army officer. He talks about Iraq, and you know, from a personal experience. You know, his first book was about that, but then he's also branched into military history as well, and he's doing very well. And of course, you keep seeing him popping up on Sky TV whenever they need, you know, somebody to to discuss as a consultant. You know, the expert witness.
Yeah, it's Rupert.
There he is.
The thing about that Rupert that I liked about Rupert, the first time we interviewed him about 4 times in a week, and every time he came with a different item to show us.
Absolutely.
And there was a test tube with some sand in it from Afghanistan, there was a map, an escape map, and it was like, and he'd say, "What do you think this is?" And he would never tell us straight away. He'd always pop hat.
Fascinating man.
But that's the good thing, because the sheer variety. I mean, the last time round, you even had Rifleman Harris from Sharp there.
We did, yes, Jason Salkey, and it's a shame again. Jason has been working on a book about the Sharp experiences, his Sharp experiences, for several years, and each year I phone him up and I say, "Jason, how's it going?" You know, and he said, "Well, we're nearly there." You know, this year I said to him, "How's it going?" And he said, "He's done." And it's coming out just before War and Peace would have been, so it would have been there for War and Peace. So we're gonna, you know, it's going to be fun next year.
We'll have to get him on one of these Zoom sessions with
he's very good. Jason will give you a very nice interview, so yeah, that's fun.
Now,
you know,
I mean,
lots of things.
I mean, it brings, I mean, the whole War and Peace, there's so many memories attached to it, and for me, I mean, meeting William Earl, who if anyone's watching doesn't know William, he was the Gary Lineker show, the Gary Lineker program, where he went back to follow his grandfather's, and his grandfather's was very similar to was pretty much where my uncle was as well, and so was William, where my uncle died in Italy, and William and Gary Lineker's grandfather were clearly in the same areas, and it's just sitting there the first time I interviewed William, and it dawned on me halfway through, this man could have been somewhere close to where, because he said he was, you know, so but William was on that documentary with Gary Lineker with Liz Coward.
Liz Coward, his biographer, yes. I mean, William's lovely. I mean, he's coming up to 105 now. He's desperate to come back to War and Peace. He's been here twice. He was in the Army Medical Corps, and his war was in, you know, in Italy, the Italian campaigns, and he's just a very humble man. When you speak to him, he's a delightful chap to talk to. He really is. His book, which I happen to have here, Blood and Bandages. It's and there he is on the back. I don't know if you can see that. There he is. In his younger days. It's a super book to read. There's a bit of a love story there as well. So it's not just all, you know, war and whatnot. But you're right. You know, he's had well, certainly since he turned 100, these last few years have been amazing. And you know, everybody who meets him, feels the same about him. I love interviewing him. I've interviewed him several times now, and he's just a very humble man who is so pleased that he's still here to be able to tell the world about his comrades, about what happened, and that's lovely.
And then the other veteran, of course, is Jeff.
Jeff Hayward.
Who comes in with Neil, and
yes, Jeff Hayward.
He can be a little bit fruity at times. He can be a little bit more descriptive, his language, just to put it like that, shall we? I think.
Jeff Hayward, military medal, bless him. He's actually Neil Barber's uncle.
Yes.
And he comes to the show. We celebrated his centenary, his 100th birthday at the show a couple of years ago, with a pipe band and with dancers and music and whatnot. And they literally just came into the audience. The audience had the scarpa out of the way. We had kept it a big secret what was happening. And we'd even managed to smuggle a cake in, all kinds of things that were going on in the background. And there was a set point in our interview. I was interviewing him, and there was a set point where they were supposed to arrive, and they were just a little bit late. So I was desperately trying to keep the interview going, so that he wouldn't, think that there was something wrong. But that was wonderful. It really was. His birthday is during War and Peace each year, which is lovely. And he draws a huge crowd. Absolutely massive crowd. It is packed out, standing room only, outside, the pavilion. It's lovely to see.
Are those amongst your favourite moments from the pavilion?
Oh, you asked me about favourite moments, and I've made some notes. Back in 2016, I think it was, we had a lady called Joyce Meader come to us, and she's a historical knitter. And I said to her, okay, so what tech do you need? Do you need PowerPoint? You'll have a microphone and whatnot. Oh, no, I don't need any of that, she said. No. She said, I'm bringing my knitting. And I thought, okay, so, I hope this is going to be all right. And what she did, she had got both authentic garments from 1817 all the way through. And she also had authentic knitting patterns that she had knitted up herself. Right. And so she was inviting gentlemen from the audience to come and stand and to see whether these things actually fitted, because a gentleman's, woolly pulley, for example, would have just about fitted a 10-year-old boy nowadays. Yeah. So it graphically illustrated how small people were then, Underpants, knitted underpants. Most of the gentlemen in the audience were going, no. It was. She drew very small audiences. I'd love to have her back. Now we have, more people coming to the show. But it was fascinating. It really was. Albert Figg. I don't know if you remember Albert Figg.
First World War?
No, Second World War veteran. Right. Albert Figg, he had a book called The Ups and Downs of a Gunner, born in 1920. And it was about his being in the battle to capture Hill 112. And that was in France, I understand. And basically, he'd written this book, and he was such a character, so full of beans, lovely family who came along with him. And sadly, now, was it 17 or 18? I can't remember which year it was. He died literally days before the show. And so we ended up doing a memorial. We had a bugler and whatnot in his slot where he would have been, I would have been interviewing him. The older gentlemen don't normally give talks. I normally interview them, and I hasten to add, anybody listening to this, what, they're ladies. I haven't come across any elderly lady veterans yet, but it's only been going a few years.
They're out there.
Give me time. So in that slot we had a memorial, and that was very moving. We had people in tears. It was memorable. We had a lady called Elizabeth Hart Muir. she has come, she came for the first time, and she would have been coming the second time in 2020. And she wrote about the experiences of the WASBs. These are the women's auxiliaries who were in Burma in the most appalling, atrocious conditions, where they were dishing out tea and sympathy, basically, on the front line. And she came to me and she said, look, I've not done this sort of thing before, will I be all right, and her presentation brought lumps to people's throats. We listened to her talking. In fact, now I'm getting choked up. It was so passionate. Her aunt, I think it was, is the main theme, the person in the book that she was following, and her experiences. And she had spent some time researching and going into the background of these ladies, and it really was an eye-opener to what they experienced. Wow, amazing people. So Elizabeth, she hopefully will be here next year, and that's a must see. Really lovely. What else have I got here? Oh, Chris Orchard. We had Chris Orchard one year. And I remember him. He bought his British military motorcycles, and we had a display up. And I remember interviewing him actually at these bikes, and we drew an audience around the bikes. In between some of the, we had breaks, so that the authors, comfort breaks and whatnot. And also when the big arena events are on, it's pointless having talks when they're on because everybody's over there. And so I do little things then, and I just interviewed Chris, and as a result of that, we drew quite a crowd of people looking at these bikes, talking about these bikes. And he was there for 2 days, and his first day he came, gave a talk, did some book signing. He was incredibly busy on his stand all day, and his next day he got he got up to speak, in front of everybody, and he just said, "Well, now I haven't got I'll get the buyer's guide out. Where are we?" He had one copy left of his book.
Yeah.
He sold out of everything, and he just stood up in front of everybody and said, "I've got one copy left. Who wants it?" And there was this sea of hands going, me. Amazing. It was just a great. Everybody laughed, and it was lovely. I mean, I could go on. Ian Bailey, from Saberstorm Publishing. Saberstorm Publishing have a stand there each year. And Ian is an author in his own right. He's given a couple of talks there. And 2019, yes, the last one, he and I did a joint presentation, which was great fun, and one of the memorable bits for me that sticks out, because I'd written a book about Second World War crime. I've given talks at the show about it. He actually had played one of the murderers that I talk about in my book in a TV show. And so we showed the show so that, to the audience, and then we talked about, the character and how he'd played it and whatnot, and that was very popular. Something a little bit different, and that was fun to be able to work with Ian.
So the Pavilion hopefully will be back next year. We're going to talk about you because you're an author, you're a journalist as well. You've had quite a few books out. As we mentioned, I can see it behind you, Crime in the Second World War.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Military Wives, Under the Queen's Colours. And you've got a couple of books coming out soon.
Yeah, so I've got Crime, Military Wives. Yeah. I mean, these are just my military histories. I've written lots of local history and bits and bobs like that.
I saw that Eastleigh, where my great aunt lived in Eastleigh for a long time.
Really?
So I go there as a kid, a long time ago. Long
time. I've written about Southampton. I do a lot of I've written 5 books about Southampton, and I was all Southamptoned out for a long time, and then I was asked to write another one, and I'm wading my way through that one. So that'll come out soon. And as a result of that, I do a lot of cruise ship talks about Southampton and other topics, folklore, all kinds of things. Anyway, on the military front, I've got a new book coming out in July. It has been delayed. This book I've written it with my good friend and fellow speaker at War and Peace, Dr. Penny Starnes. And Penny's been she's a prolific history writer, a historian, and has given many talks at the show. And she and I we were at the show a couple of years back, and we realized that we both had been researching the experiences of wartime evacuees from different angles.
Yeah.
And we both had gaps, and we realized that if we could put our material together, it would make a great book. So that's what we did. Yeah, fill the gaps. So I had been interviewing, I like interviewing people. I had been interviewing, obviously grown up now, but you know, child evacuees, and videoing them. And so what we've done is we've put the book together. It's being published by Saberstorm, Escaping the Blitz. And there are QR codes throughout it. You know what your mobile phone, you know, and if you click on a QR code with your reader on the phone, it will take you to a video of these people talking and actually discussing, you know, what we're talking about in the book. So it's you know, it's something a bit different. It'll bring the book alive.
Yeah, it brings history to life, doesn't it? Because
absolutely. Yeah,
you get that. You go around exhibits in museums and you'll hear the voices, but when you can buy a book and do that and it comes on your phone, that's a big selling point. That is
absolutely
definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it's the ladies and gentlemen concerned were just lovely to talk to, and you know, from a historian's point of view, it's lovely to have captured those memories. You know, they're getting older, and once they leave us,
Yeah, that's it.
You know, you've lost them. So you know, it's really nice to be able to have that kind of content within
It's a privilege,
the book.
isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
And Peter, that's exactly right. I love talking to the veterans, to the evacuees, to, you know, to people who were involved. It is a real privilege to be able to do so. It really is.
So that's our first episode done and dusted. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and thank you to Mike and Penny for joining us as well. That's it for now. We'll be back in a few weeks. If you have any comments or suggestions on who we should talk to next, let us know in the comments below. But that's it for now, and we'll see you soon. Bye!